We've been using classic animation techniques to create favourite Disney films.
We've been playing Disney Animated by Funko Games. Hi, I'm Libby, this is Julian. Together we are BoxedMeeples and we have been playing Disney Animated by Funko Games. Thank you very much to Funko Games for gifting us a copy of this wonderful game to play and do a review. So today we're going to talk about the 5 reasons we enjoyed this game, so it'll be ideas that you might enjoy about it too. But first of all, we'll get to an overview from Julian.
To celebrate 100 years of Walt Disney Studios, Funko Games have released Disney Animated. This family-friendly co-op game doesn't focus on the specific films the company has made over the years. Instead, it shines a light on the creative process behind the scenes. In the game you get to produce some classic Disney films: Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Fantasia, 101 Dalmatians, Aladdin and Alice in Wonderland. To achieve this, you must follow the steps pioneered by the animation studio since the 20s. When you animate, you draw cards which each list the qualities needed in a true Disney animator: grit, focus, inspiration, heart and teamwork. These cards are used to avoid calamities and activate any film characters you've placed on your movie. Players will also have to create their own backgrounds, building up the setting piece by piece. This then allows the ink and paint department to spend paint tokens to place characters into the scene. Choosing sound effects allows someone to activate their own unique player powers. Then of course you need a little Disney magic, where players can do any other action to the value of the magic. In Disney Animated, players must work together much like the team at the famous Walt Disney Animation Studios. On the studio board is a track, and as you select an action tile, it returns to the start of the track, while all the other actions move up. The further along a track an action is, the more powerful it is. But then, when used, it loses its power. It's important that all players make sure the person who needs to use a specific action has it at full power on their turn. It's a game perfect for families, as cooperation and communication are vital for success. As Walt himself said, "Whatever we accomplish belongs to our entire group, a tribute to our combined efforts." But be warned, pressures of the industry embodied by the villains of these feature films will need to be considered. They will rush your deadlines and create all the calamity they can. So, as a team, you must use the strengths of the animation studio to vanquish the villains and finish your films on time. After all, as a great man once said, animation can create whatever the mind can conceive.
Fantastic, so now we know what the game is. What's our 5 reasons that we think that you might like this game?
Now, the classic Hollywood studio system era is a period of American history that I've always really loved, and that is when this game is based. It's based in the 40s, but it does span many films that cover from the classic early period of Snow White of 1930s all the way up to Aladdin in the 1990s. And it really does feel like a love letter to creating those Disney movies. Every aspect of this isn't about the films themselves, it's more about the animation process. So the choices you make echo the design process that went on when they were making those films. And it's also nice in its kind of construction of those films. As you're placing those background tiles down on your board, you're almost kind of mirroring the kind of multi-plane camera effect that they used in the very early Disney films. The characters you place on your board are actually like film cells that they use when they're animating. And there's those little attention to detail that I think really elevate this and make it feel like a really unique and clever theme when there's so many kind of just Disney games based on film properties.
Yeah, I think it really makes it stand out as something a little bit different because of that focus on the animation rather than just the story behind each particular film, which you would see in a lot of other games. It really adds something for me. There's lots of different mechanisms and lots of different almost like mini games within that one game. Each of the actions that you're taking to do has its own little thought process on how to do that best. And so for example, when you're trying to paint and you need the colours that you need for your palette, you're trying to work out how you're going to get the ones that you need cheaper. So if someone else was to take a colour from this row, would that benefit you? Or could they take that same colour from another row that then had the colour you needed about to drop down? And again, when you're replacing your colours having used them, where do you put them? So someone might be able to access them if they need them or they don't, and just trying to work as a team with that. Also, in terms of your background, which places do you put in? You know, if you've got a high number and you've got a 5, do you pick a couple of them and get a couple of bonuses? Do you get the big one out now because you know that this is going to be your chance to get a bigger block of stuff out, and then you're quicker to get one of the characters out in those sort of film cell tops, which are then going to give you special powers once they're out to play? There's lots and lots of things going on. And also you've got your own things that you can do. So those characters do give you individual powers, but you also have your kind of your song action, your sound action with one of our games I was playing with the Aladdin film, so I had a genie that could be placed, and that's also allowing different benefits to different people, and I'm needing it to be in a certain place for the certain times within the game. You were playing a completely different character needing to do something completely different.
Yeah, I had to think about my long-term goals because I had to get my music notes out, which meant that when I was playing playing Fantasia, I had to not repeat the same action because I had to move around the board. So it does really change the way the game is played. Obviously, collectively you're playing towards the same goal, but the way you're doing that differs between the characters, both down to the character ability and also what your individual song is going to do.
Yeah, and so you're sort of mixing up what's best for me to do in terms of what number action you should go for, and also what personal actions you're trying to achieve as well. So there's loads of different options and things going on, which I really appreciate, that sort of mix of ideas and things to think about.
And I think it's to its credit really that those disparate ideas, those different mechanisms all gel together, so it doesn't feel like you're playing lots of different games. It does feel really cohesive and one big game that you're working together to achieve on.
Definitely.
Now, one of the focuses when you're playing Disney Animated is, of course, the card river. We've seen this in things like Civilization and, of course, in Ark Nova. And that's where you take the action and it depletes in its power and then goes back to the beginning of the river to then make everything else stronger. Now, I haven't seen this kind of mechanism in a cooperative game. Usually you're playing on your own and you have to balance when you're going to take the action at what strength. But in this game, you're working, at least with someone else, often with, higher player counts up to 4. So it really is a cooperative mode that you have to focus on, because you can't be selfish in this game. You have to think about what action can I take, but more importantly, how is the person who's going to take turns after me going to be affected by this choice? For example, when I was playing Fantasia, if people were taking the action that I needed, I wasn't able to go there when I had to keep going to different places. But more importantly, if someone hasn't finished their background yet, and you start hogging that background on every single turn, you're going to do your background, that's going to be fantastic. But then no one else is going to. And having that background on early doors is often key to success when you're playing this game. And it's intriguing how the magic action works particularly, because that allows you to choose any action that's lower down but use it at a stronger power. But obviously, if you use that and you haven't got magic tokens, it's not even available to you, so you can't use it. So it's always about what's good for me, but also, more importantly, what's good for everyone else.
Yeah, and there's definitely some group discussion that happens. It's like, actually, if I need to take this action, but instead, actually, if I took that action, then on your turn, you could do that, which would then allow me to do something else, because there's a bit of a cascade. And you really are working together to work out which when. I mean, certainly one of our games that we played, a 4-player, you were the player before me and had taken the background early doors, and it's like, okay, well, I can start stocking up for other things, that's fine. And then the next one round you're like, oh yeah, well, I could take the background, now it's built up again. I'm like, hold your horses. I'd really like some background right now. So you do have to chat with each other and get that to go.
And it really sings when you combine those. So I will take this action because then if you took that action, you took that action, the action I've taken will then be powerful again for you at the end of the turn. If you're particularly playing 4-player, less of an issue obviously if you're playing with a smaller player count. And that just feels different. It feels unique. And yes, we have seen this card river in similar games, but this really does change it up. Just having that cooperative mode in it, that cooperative element really does change it.
And you would think that it would give a problem, because you know, certainly early doors, a lot of people are wanting to build their background, and then later in the game you're trying to do other things because the backgrounds are made. But I think that the personal powers and the other special elements with the magic tokens and stuff do negate that really well, so you don't end up thinking that you're having a dead turn because you can't do the one thing that you need. There is always either a way around it to get what you still need, or something else that you're going to be needing anyway, or a way even of switching the cards and things like that. There's lots of different mechanisms that don't make you feel you have any downturns, even if someone has taken the thing that you want.
You always have that end game goal. You know what you have to do for your servant character to defeat your villain. So, you know, maybe it's taking action that will help you right down the end of the game, really help you with that action that you have to achieve something. And you just have this thought process continually about what's good for me, but also what's good for everyone else.
Yeah, and that certainly you need to be very cooperative with, because certainly, you know, from when we were playing with, and I was Aladdin with the genie, I needed to finish with the genie in a certain space, and if someone was to use that action space, which was a quite popular one, and then return my genie to me, that would mean that I wouldn't be able to achieve my film, defeat my Jafar villain, and so it would be problematic. So it's really about planning cooperatively to make all those things come in a line. So we have a look at this box, and it's Disney, and you think, oh, that's a lovely family game. That'll probably be great for some young kids.
Yep.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong, it is lovely for that sort of thing, but this is trickier than you imagine, and it's very scalable. So if you do have some younger children that are enjoying playing board games, you can make it easier with some of the bits that happen. You can scale all of the calamities that are happening. But I mean, we played it for adults that game a lot, that have played this kind of game a lot.
Yeah, we played a lot of those kind of firefighting pandemic style games.
Yeah.
We know about managing your turns for a greater good.
And we played on easy mode.
On easy mode. I thought we were going to walk it.
We scraped it.
We won.
We scraped through. And we had to, towards the end, we were having to think, well, no, that's not going to work. If we do that we'll lose because of that. So, okay, right. If you do that, and then you do that, and then, oh no, I've got this special power. Oh yeah, excellent. Right, okay, so you do that.
We were cards down programming our turns because it got so close towards the end.
And luckily we had like magic tokens, or we had some little doggy bones, which were great, and different things like that. So we made it happen. But it isn't a walk in the park. You know, it is actually a cute game with, you know, looks beautiful. But it's going to give you a bit of a teamwork challenge as well. And that was easy mode, obviously. There's a hard mode. If you want to ramp it up,
yeah,
there's a way of doing that.
You can scale up those calamities. I don't even think it's going to be achievable on the hardest mode. It is so hard. And obviously that complexity is scalable with player count. So we did find it slightly easier with a smaller player count, because then the turns weren't, you had less calamities to deal with. But then obviously you then can't depend on other people achieving them. So when it's a certain one of, you know, playing one of your animator skills, you know, with a higher player count, you've got more chances of that arriving. But obviously with 2 players, you're just hoping that one of you, between you, have got the cards you need. So it really does scale well for, you know, smaller player counts, and obviously up to the 4 player count.
And with the larger player counts as well, obviously you're seeing more of these different characters and what they do. And I do think that they give the game a great lot of variety. Everyone's got different bonuses from their different characters that they're laying on their board. They've obviously also got different things going on with their song actions, and different ways in which they interact with the game and can get different bonuses and things and abilities that are going to help you as a group win and achieve things. And to be able to have all those different films in the box and switch it out so you're playing a new one next time just is really great. And I think that even game to game, they're still going to act a little bit differently, because you're going to be in a different position with a different opponent with a different film each time.
Now, Funko Games have done a really lovely job with Disney Animated. It says here it's a celebration of Disney's 100th year of making films, and it really does feel like a celebration. Every component in this game is so well done. Now, the process of putting those kind of background tiles onto the board, building it, constructing it as you go, and then getting a chance to see the background, just gives you a chance to just appreciate the backgrounds that existed in those kind of films.
Yeah, and when you actually get to put your character and lay that over that background section, it brings the whole thing to life. It's just glorious. All that colour that just pops on the board.
Now, I said at the beginning how it was a celebration of the art of Disney, the creation process, and you get that across all of the films. And it's interesting that they span such a large period. You know, you're going from the 30s to the 90s, but it still feels cohesive. It doesn't feel like there's a hodgepodge of different art styles going on here. It all feels like one beautiful, lovely package. And you get those in those lovely little tuck boxes.
Yes, it's interesting, those little tuck boxes, isn't it? They seem quite small and compact, and there's a few films in the box here, and there's a lot of films that Disney have done, aren't there? Yeah. Interesting.
They pick 5 obviously films here, and I do think that the 5 they selected are great.
Oh, lovely films, but wouldn't necessarily, if you'd said, okay, let's take a poll of worldwide people's top 5 Disney films from the 90s back, even if we weren't going modern era, I think there's some gaps here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what's to come potentially.
I know, I do hope there are expansions because it's going to be so interesting to see in a kind of villainous style how different films play together and how different character abilities, when you're not both in terms of the character use and also the song bonus, how that affect the play when different films are involved. So I do hope that it's successful enough and there's expansions on the horizon, because I could just see this game just getting more and more diverse the more films you have to play with it.
Yeah, and I think one of the most beautiful parts of this game is that how each film interacts slightly differently. It has its different player powers, has its different song powers that it needs to be able to achieve by the end. So to add even more variety into that and different ways of mixing that up and maybe kind of thinking out of the box like some of the characters in Villainous do, and they just really change the game up slightly to add new things, that could be really interesting.
Yeah. So that's been 5 reasons why we've really enjoyed playing Disney Animated. It's a beauty on the table and a beauty to play too. And it's going to be coming to your friendly local game store soon.
It is indeed. And for us, our friendly local game store is Chaos Cards. If you aren't in the southeast of England, they also have a website. We will have in the description our BoxedMeeples discount code for you if you want to use it. They also have a membership scheme, which is fantastic too.
So if you're new to this channel, we are, as we said, BoxedMeeples, and we post a board game video on YouTube at least twice a week. So hopefully, if you enjoy board games as much as we do, you'll like this video and also subscribe if you want to see more content that we're doing.
We would love that.
But as always, thank you so much for watching.
Bye. So it's really about planning cooperatively to make all those things come in a line.
A card line.
Oh my gosh.